Welcome to the Seven Figure Leaders podcast. This podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. And there you'll find the link to apply. Welcome, and today we've got Dominic Baldwin from Zentum. Welcome, Dominic.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here, Tom.
Pleasure to have you on this cold January morning. So you run Zentum, which is a financial advisory firm, which does things slightly differently to the typical financial advisor. Perhaps you could run us through the model, what you do, why it's different, and how you sort of stand out in that sense.
Yeah, great. No problems. So I think the audience that we tend to look after are primarily business owners who are looking to transition to the next chapter. And so if they are transitioning, selling their business, retiring, whatever it might be, what we do is we help them to articulate what inspirational and authentic means. And we also help them to identify what their number needs to be when they sell the business. And all of that work, if you're guiding somebody in this role, for us, you need to make sure that you are the best guide you can be, and also to make sure that there is no conflicts of interest in any way. So the way that we do the consultancy work is purely on a time and complexity basis.
Okay. And just to be clear, time and complexity basis differs to most financial advisors because most financial advisors will charge a percentage and you're charging a fixed fee based on the amount of work. Yeah.
Yeah. For us, the amount that the clients receive when they sell their business is not front and foremost of the conversation. It's obviously really important that, if business owners have worked for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it's really important that they achieve the figure that they want. But for us to identify what their unique number is, we don't spend as much time talking about the money. What we're really interested in is what do they want the next chapter to look like? And why is that next chapter so exciting and inspirational and authentic to them? And when we are able to see what the next chapter looks like, we're then able to reverse engineer all of these conversations, and we're able to actually give them a figure that they need to achieve for the sale of their business. And again, if a client has the same level of complexity and needs, however, one client sells his business for 2 million and another sells it for 20 million. In our world, we don't see why we would be charging a client more money purely because they have had a higher figure for their business.
And so just to make what you're saying sound a bit more relatable for the business owners that are going to be listening to this, before we went live, we talked about a few points. So, for example, you mentioned that financial well-being isn't all about the money, and that's kind of what you've alluded to there. But perhaps if you've got an example of the type of conversation that you'd have, or an example of that conversation.
Yeah. So to give you, a lot of times when people move to the next chapter of life, and so if they are selling their business, their perception is that when they sell the business, that they may be in this euphoria of joy and contentment, love, happiness, and everything else. However, the reality is quite different. And so we have worked, we're 21 years old as a business now. We've been doing this for a long time. And a lot of times when we see people, when they sell their business, their actual financial well-being, how they feel about their wealth drops. So it kind of contradicts what we all think will happen, is that when we suddenly get given a big check. However, We maybe don't get the phone calls on a Monday morning. We maybe don't have the structure, the responsibilities. We don't have the purpose. Everything changes. And so the conversations that we feel are the most impactful for our clients moving into the next chapter. And ideally, we want to have this conversation probably 12 months to 24 months prior to a sale. So again, we are more interested in helping them transition with grace to the next chapter. And the conversation is a lot more around about what are your priorities in life? And those answers. So again, ideally, what we try and help clients to articulate is we would ask them to articulate what are the 8 most important areas of your life. And once you tell us what those 8 are, why are they the most important?
Mm-hmm.
And then also what we would want to know is, can you articulate what your 3 or 5 core values are? So if we know for a family, so again, this has no relevance to the sale of your business, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 million pounds, is if we know what your priorities are and we know why they are so important to you and your family. And ideally, these answers need to come from your soul, spirit, and everything else, rather than just intellectual answers. But again, if you've been doing this for a long period of time, a lot of times people give you an intellectual answer to start with. And then when you dig a little bit deeper, when you ask them to explain why, they actually change their answer. So by the time you finish the initial consultation, we have a far clearer idea as to what matters to a family and why. And we also then have an idea of what their values are and why those values are important to them.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry.
I was just going to say, why are the values important from perspective?
Okay, so I think, and so when we have those 2 bits of information, or the client becomes clear as to priorities and values, then every financial decision we make has to align or enhance the priorities and values. And to give you a really simple example of this is that we work with a family, and within that family there are 2 brothers who are very successful. And one of the brothers' core value is simplicity. And the other brother's core value is not simplicity. So when the team are putting forward solutions to meet the priorities of the family, we know that we should never bring to the table a complex solution to the gentleman whose core value is simplicity. And now and again, people their actions contradict their values, and if their actions contradict their values, then you'll tend to find that increases the chances of anxiety and discomfort and everything else. Whereas if your decisions in life align with core values and align with your priorities, your financial well-being, how you feel about it, and the relationship you have with your wealth goes up substantially.
Mm. And with those priorities that people set prior to that business sale,
Yep.
how often do you find that they actually get them wrong? So they set a priority now, something that they want. Let's say they want to spend 3 days on the golf course every week and they want to go on 10 holidays a year, whatever it may be. And then they actually sell the business. And then, like you said, the reality is different to what they imagined and they haven't got the emails to respond to on a Monday morning. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but there's a quite startling stat around people's level of happiness a year after selling their business. And I wonder whether you can talk to that a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's that you feel, because either friends, colleagues, other people you've worked with, you feel like, right, great, they're on the golf course and they're full of joy and happiness and contentment, so I'm going to do the same. But actually that rarely happens. And then sometimes they want to go on the golf course, but they actually haven't got a group of mates every week who want to go on the golf course with them. So this is where the challenge always is, and the success is about how do we transition with as greater ease, and we kind of call it transitioning with grace, so that our levels of contentment, fulfillment, and go up. So if somebody said to us that they wanted to play golf 2-3 days a week, we would be kind of asking them, okay, right, well, let's talk about this now. How do you think you're going to feel in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Do we think we would get bored? Why we were doing it? It would only be one of maybe the 8 or 10 priorities. And so a lot of times people will turn around, and a priority could be something like health. So a lot of people, when they sell their businesses, it's an opportunity for them to check in and say, right, I now have the opportunity to live this kind of authentic and inspirational life. And what does that actually look like? And so if people then say health to us, but then we see that they contradict what they say is important, part of our role is to actually pull them up on that.
Mhm.
And so if somebody says health's important, well, then it's kind of right. Okay, well, do you have the right private medical insurance? Have you had the right scans? Are you eating well? Are you going and doing certain exercises? Are you out in nature? Whatever it might be, because if it's a priority, well, then your actions need to correlate with what matters.
Mhm.
And part of that is, if and clients love that. They love the accountability. They love creating the inspirational vision. They love the fact that you prioritize, or they tell you what matters in their life and why. And part of the role that we play at Zentum is creating the financial plan to give them the greatest chance of doing all of these things, but also making them accountable.
Mhm.
And a lot of times you find, people go and buy holiday homes, and then in a lot of cases, when they buy holiday homes, 2 years later, 3 years later, they are not using them enough. It restricts them from traveling the world and everything else. So they decide that they're not going to keep the holiday home. But as part of our process of this consultancy work at the start is that we will look at, okay, you want to buy a holiday home, so we allocate a certain amount of money to a holiday home, but we then also say, well, should we just look at what would there be scenario if we sold that in 1, 2, 3 years time? What if we sold it and we lost money on that property, or it went up? So it's really important that the clients understand the consequences of their decisions.
Yeah. 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 The other thing you talked about earlier on was helping clients come up with their
Yep.
number.
Yep.
Perhaps we can talk about that a little bit, because
Yep.
I would imagine that's one of those things, and certainly from my experience with my clients, they think they need a certain amount of money, and very often it's wildly different to the amount that they actually need. It could be a number that's much higher because it's a number that their friends have got, or their friends talk about, people at the golf club talk about, or it could actually be a number that's nowhere near enough.
Yeah,
They need.
exactly. Okay, so the flow of the conversation to help a client identify their unique number is a conversation where talk to me or talk to the team about what does life look like post sale. So where are you living? How many holidays are you having a year? Talk to me about every week, month, year. What does it look like? Uh, Talk about any dreams and aspirations you have for the future. So if you have children, do you want to help them if they want to get married, if they want to have properties, if you want to have properties abroad, if you want to be involved in philanthropy, whatever comes to mind. Talk to me now about what the future looks like for you and your family. Now, once a client relaxes, realizes that they're in a safe space, realizes that we're not there to sell them any products whatsoever because it's purely a piece of consultancy work, they start being very honest with themselves. They start actually being willing to show some vulnerability, and they tell you what they're really excited about, and they also tell you what they're maybe a little bit scared or anxious about. And once we have all of that information, we're able to pretty much reverse engineer the whole of that conversation and come up with a monetary amount that they require for their lifestyle.
Mhm.
And none of that involves any product at that stage. It would be working on standard inflationary figures, standard returns of investment, dependent on the level of risk the family is willing to take. So, and it has a contingency built in for stock market crashes. It has a contingency built in for changing of minds or anything else. So you build that all out. So when you actually show them the plan, which will run from whenever they are now to when they're 100 years old, and you show them every single assumption that is there, they can, in real time, they can change any of the assumptions, any of the what if scenarios, any of the purchases of cars or properties or whatever it might be. And all of that will change their number. And so only when they are happy that the vision that they have created and they've been challenged quite robustly as to that vision, we're able to come up with a figure. And then that figure is it's down to £100.
Right. Yeah.
And so then that is their number. It's not just a number that you or I have a friend, he sold his business, he got 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 million pounds, so I want the same. It is a number that is unique to the dreams and aspirations, the priorities and values of you and your family.
Mhm.
And therefore, when they go and sell their business, or when they look at the thought of selling their business, they have a high level of financial comfort that if they can achieve that or exceed that figure, they know that the plan that they have for their family can be achieved.
Got it. And in your experience, do you tend to find, to the point that I made in the question, do you find that business owners tend to overestimate or underestimate how much they're going to need before they
Oh,
speak?
yeah, nearly always overestimate.
Okay.
Yeah, then the number they nearly come up with nearly always is quite a long way off their actual number.
Mm.
And more often than not, they perceive that they need, 5 or 7 million, when actually 3 or 4 will be more than enough than they require. But in some cases, it needs to be more like 20 because their dreams and aspirations are a higher figure.
Yeah.
And again, the thing that we always have to be very careful of when you do all of this is we're not there to judge. We're not there to steer either way. It's their family's dreams and aspirations. It's making it realistic. Again, if somebody turns around and says, "Well, my dreams and aspirations are that I need 25 million pounds," but then somebody in corporate finance says, "Well, they've got a business worth 500,000 pounds," there needs to be a realignment of expectations.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, people hold on to their businesses far longer than they need to because actually their number has already been achieved, or they have exceeded it considerably, the value of their business, which means they could sell their business 3, 4, 5 years sooner and actually go and do all the things that they want to go and do.
Yeah. So pivoting now onto Zentum and
Yeah,
how your team is structured, how you got into this.
yeah,
Perhaps we can dive into that and then kind of merge the two, if you
yeah,
like.
yeah, great. So the business is 21 years old. And the catalyst for creating Zentum was from a personal family experience where I felt that my late father um, was somebody that would have really benefited from true guidance to help him make really good decisions. And I felt that the way that the industry is structured at the moment, where the majority of advisors are rewarded to sell products and to have funds under managed, uh, was a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And so we decided 21 years ago that we would create a business that was free of conflict. And so we turned around and said, well, how could we be the best possible guide to our friends and family and also to the clients we serve? And we came up with a model that turned around and said, well, we wanted to be independent. We didn't want any organization telling us what we should or shouldn't promote. So we wanted to be fiercely independent. So we knew that we had nobody pushing us down any particular route. We also understand that it's really important to have a good understanding of your subject matter. So as a business, we're a chartered firm. So we want to demonstrate that our academic knowledge is at the highest level. And then we also decided that we would get rid of any commissions whatsoever, and we would look at it. And we, from doing this role now for quite a number of years, once we understand the complexity of a family's needs, we're able to say to them, okay, well, on an annual basis, the average hours you will need from our team is X amount, and therefore we will charge you a fixed fee on an annual basis, and it is irrelevant as to the level of wealth that you have. And the difference in the purity of the guidance, but also the financial difference between commissions and percentages and fixed fee is massive. If you understand compound interest, and if any of your listeners want to understand that, just go and Google and just see the effects of compound interest. But the effects of compound interests are phenomenal. To just kind of put it into context, Tom, if I can, is that if you have a pension worth £1 million and you retire at, say, 55, and you're thinking that you therefore are likely to keep that pension fund for 25 years as you draw down on it, the difference between the average percentage and a fixed fee of £1 million is £1 million in 25 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, do you want that extra £1 million to go to your advisor and their organization, or would you like that extra £1 million to be in a pot to share with you and your family and to have experiences and everything else? Mm-hmm. And for me, it's kind of, well, I really want to pay my advisor because I hugely value their input. But I don't want to pay them an extra £1 million, which I don't need to, because I would rather that went for experiences for my own family.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's you're the first business that I've heard, financial advisor business that I've heard of that actually has that model. So and there's a clear benefit to the clients. Like you said, if you compound the fees that you would otherwise be paying to an advisor, take a percentage, then that goes straight to your retirement pot, or the pot that's going to be there for you.
It is. We have on our website, there is a fee calculator, so anybody can go onto it. They can use it. We don't ask them for any data, so it's not a way for us to gather any data for anything. It's a way to educate people to see the benefit of going to an organization that charges a fixed fee or delivering a service, and also the other part that I was fiercely, kind of passionate about was our duty of care to be brilliant guides. And if you create this model, it means that everybody who comes into our business, they're not looking to be salespeople. They're not looking to get percentages. They're not looking for bonuses on clients' money. They are people who come into our business because they love what they do and they love guiding. So it's a little bit like the mentality of doctors and nurses and surgeons and what have you. We want people to come to us who want to be fantastic at serving and guiding our clients to make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Well, we'll make it very easy for anyone who's interested in getting in touch with you. So we'll put your LinkedIn profile and link to your website in the show notes. Anything else you want to share before we end it?
No, I think that's it's been great. I think we've covered lots of good points. I think if anybody would just like a no obligation call with me, not looking to sell or do anything at all other than to educate people. If I in any way can help a family make good decisions, then that's the main purpose of our business. So again, if they reach out to me on LinkedIn, I will endeavour to help anybody who reaches out to me.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Dominic Baldwin from Zentum. Thanks, Dominic.
Okay. Cheers, Tom. All the best.
All the best. Thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. On that page, you'll find the link to apply.